Hi there, everyone. My name's Alan Lonstein, and I'm with Trifecta Painting and Construction. We're a fully licensed painting and general contractor that has been servicing the HOA industry for over 15 years. While we offer a multitude of services for the HOA industry, today I'll be focusing on your guide to walkway and planter waterproofing. So you might ask, what is waterproofing? So let's first start off by getting a good idea of what that is. Waterproofing is generally known as a membrane system that's put in place to prevent water from penetrating a general area. While there are many forms of and applications of waterproofing, this presentation is geared towards walkable and planter waterproofing at your community. So the first question is, why do I need it? Well, water made the Grand Canyon, and it can cause a lot of damage, as you know, to interior units or common area. So the first thing is going to be protection from that water damage. Secondly, it's going to be durability for use. A lot of the areas that we're going to be discussing today are you can go ahead and walk on. And we need to make sure that's durable enough for not only you to walk on, but for everyone in the association or even some furniture and so forth. And the last one is going to be beautification of your HOA's common area. As you know, when you go through and do painting or other larger capital expense projects, a lot of the times you're trying to uplift the community and make it worth, let's say, more money. So with that, this could be achieved through waterproofing as well. Generally, there's going to be two types of waterproofing that you're going to see regarding these planter or walkable surfaces. The first one's going to be a fiberglass waterproofing system, which is fiberglass resin with concrete layers that form a temporary water barrier. This is the gold standard when it comes to HOA, and it's very, very durable and can last a very long time. The second type is going to be urethane, which is a liquid apply coating to form a temporary water barrier. These are slightly more economical and they are liquid applied. So if you're dealing with large areas and you're looking for a little bit more economies of scale, there's other options in the urethane category. I will start off when we're talking about floor coatings and floor waterproofing systems, we need to make sure that you realize that these are not pool coatings. So the general idea behind waterproofing of floors and walkways is that those systems are made to deter water from penetrating the surface for 24 to 48 hours, meaning the water needs to find its way to either drains or off the deck area, let's say into a planter, before it dries. So a lot of times you see major issues where there's missloping and water isn't getting to where it needs to go. So once again, waterproofing are not pool coatings. And general lifespans, which I'll touch on a few more specific bases, are going to be 15 to 20 years for walkable surfaces, as long as you're maintaining that about every 5 years with a licensed contractor. And with planters could be anywhere between 10 and 20 years, as long as you're working with your landscaping professional to make sure that you're putting the right foliage and the right plants in there that aren't going to damage the waterproofing prematurely. To start off, we're going to talk about podium decks. I know this doesn't apply to everyone watching today, but it will impact the majority of the associations found in Los Angeles. As an example, here's a picture of a podium deck in an association that we do work for. This is basically an underground parking garage with a concrete slab, and then the buildings are built above. Podium slabs are extremely common, and let's go and give you a quick definition. It's the base of a building in which a parking garage is under a structural concrete slab. Please note that when looking at concrete slabs, there's rebar. And rebar is really the bones of the association. So when we're talking about waterproofing, we're really trying to prevent the water from getting into the bones and rusting that rebar. Because without the rebar, your associations really don't have any strength to last time. So when looking at podium decks, some of the common hazards or deterioration to look out for include the following: subterranean and parking garage pitting of the concrete ceiling or efflorescence on the ceiling. As an example, I've provided a couple pictures here for an association that we're working with. This is where water's gotten in through the top of the slab and it's caused the rebar to rust and we could say spall, which is expand. which causes the concrete on the bottom of the deck to expand and crack off. This is showing signs of structural deficiencies due to incorrect waterproofing or non-maintained waterproofing over the top. Next, we're going to be looking at visibly cracked or deteriorated walking surfaces. So here, once again, is an example of a urethane system that's really broken down over the time and hasn't been maintained by the association for the long haul. And the third example would be absence of drainage or pooling water or poor sloping. Once again, we identified that waterproofing systems are not pool coating systems. So in this example right here, you can see that water's actually pooling right next to the planter and isn't getting to any type of drains or a leading edge, causing this what we call limescale buildup. Another example over here is efflorescence. If you have these corrugated plastic items attached to your parking garage ceiling so water stops dripping on cars, pull them down and get to the source of the issue. That means water is getting into your podium slab and is effectively rusting the structural rebar that's holding your community up. Some of the possible dangers of leaving these areas unattended include, safety issues surrounding the structural integrity of the association, and just knowing that once rebar starts to rust, expand, and get damaged, it's going to be a far more expensive fix in the long run. This is the bones of the association, and we need to protect it as fast and as soon as possible. General steps for repairing areas like this is going to be demolition of the tile or grinding off of the waterproofing system, inspection of the base concrete slab, performing all the necessary patch and pre-work repairs, including patching cracks, spalling concrete, addressing the rebar, and so forth. And then finally, we're going to install a new waterproofing system, whether that be fiberglass or urethane based. And we want to make sure we keep sloping in mind so that water goes from the area where it's collected to the drains or a leading edge and doesn't cause long-term damage. Finally, you can go ahead and go with basic finishes, solid color and textures, or you have options to go with more intricate designs, which can be tile or so forth. And just keep in mind that working with your licensed contractor, that the more intricate the design, the higher the cost, and they'll be able to step you through these. Generally speaking, waterproofing over these areas can last anywhere between 15 and 20 years, but you really need to make sure that you're having a licensed contractor inspect and maintain these at least every 5 years for you, recoating the top and giving it a nice coating that's going to be UV and durable resistance. The next type of deck we're going to be discussing is going to be a wood substructure deck. So let's start off by what is a wood substructure deck. A wood substructure deck is a deck or walking surface that's made from wood framing or plywood rather than a solid concrete slab. Many of your personal patios or decks at your associations are made from this, and it needs to be maintained and waterproofed, of course. Some of the common hazards and deterioration to look out for are visibly cracked or deteriorated walking surface, visible rust around the flashing base of the deck or your handrails, loose or wobbly railing, which means the wood that the railing is attached to is deteriorated and possibly dry rotted, or the absence of drainage, which means the water is pooling on the deck. And just to give you a few examples of these visually, these are some of the projects that we're currently working on now. The wood deck framing deterioration, water was getting in this deck for over 10 years, and we have mold and dry rot. The entire deck needed to be replaced. The entire corner of this other deck at the walking deck failure has completely deteriorated. My foot actually went through the deck looking for those cracks and top deterioration. This is another deck that had over 20 years of water intrusion, and it was never maintained by the association. And the last one is just showing mispitching of a deck, meaning that water is constantly pooling and collecting on this area of the deck, which is going to cause long-term damage and needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Some of the possible dangers of leaving this unattended or unmaintained are structural compromise of the wood members and framing, Direct life safety issues, meaning that the railing may not be adequately attached or somebody may be able to fall through the deck, or other water intrusion if this can lead to common areas or units below. So it's really a large issue at the long run that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Steps for repair and replacement is going to be, first off, demolition. And we're going to be removing all the damaged components, whether that be the plywood walking surface, the fall protection railing at the edge of the deck, the flashing around, anything that's visibly deteriorated that we're able to identify during the bidding process. From there, we're going to inspect the structural integrity of the components inside the deck to see if there's anything we couldn't visibly see, and then replace all those removed components and possibly new additions that need to be added to make the deck stronger, or if it's identified by a structural engineer to be added. Following this, we're going to go install a new waterproofing system, whether that be fiberglass or a urethane system. And once again, we need to make sure that we keep sloping in mind to ensure that that water gets to either the drains or the leading edge and doesn't pool over time. As we discussed before, this could be done with basic textures and colors, or you can do more intricate designs in these areas. Once again, the more intricate design, the more it will cost. So just work closely with your licensed contractor and they can help you step through that. Generally, lifespan is once again between 15 and 20 years as long as it's properly maintained. Maintenance, at least once every 5 years, need to be inspected, recoated, and make sure there's not any undue deterioration caused by either residents or just pooling water when the last time it was built. And I will say that in light of looking at the wood substructure decks, we do know that SB 326 is right around the corner. So starting in the first quarter of next year, Trifecta Painting and Construction is going to be rolling out a full deck-by-deck SB 326 solution for all of the HOA organizers associations where it hasn't been addressed yet. The final area of waterproofing we're going to discuss today is planters. So these planters can be over dirt, or they can be over your podium deck or against a wall against a wall that's sharing with a unit. So waterproofing of these can be very vital to the general maintenance of the association. Some of the common hazards and deterioration to look for is water in and around the base of the planter, discoloration or stucco failure, which I'll give you an example of right here, where the water's actually moving through the block wall and is causing the paint to fail. If the planter is up against the outside of a unit's wall and water is damaging the interior of the unit. If it's over the podium slab, and once again, we're seeing that pitting concrete dripping or efflorescence on the ceiling of the parking garage under that planter area. Or if you can visibly see the existing coating on the inside of the planter deteriorating, falling off, and you're just having general waterproofing issues. So you really have two options when it comes to correcting planters. Is going to be re-waterproofing the planter, which means you're going to have your landscaping professional remove all the dirt, soil, foliage, and irrigation from the planter, and we would come in and install a urethane-based system. Generally, these come with 10 to 20 year manufacturer warranties that we're able to pair with our own warranty and really go ahead and give the association a long-term fix. The other solution would be completely removing and demolishing the planter and putting in, let's say, freestanding pots in the area. Waterproofing is much more easily maintained, and the waterproofing where the planter was originally could be easily installed, like we talked about, over a podium or wood deck. Generally speaking, you're going to get anywhere between 10 and 20 years out of waterproofing of your planters. So you need to make sure that you adequately update your reserve studies and take this seriously, because a lot of that soil removal can be very expensive. And finally, maintenance. You're going to need to make sure you work with your landscaping professional to ensure you have the correct plants or trees in the planter that aren't going to prematurely deteriorate the waterproofing and puncture it. And also keep an eye on the exterior of the planters, as well as the ceiling and the parking areas. So I know we only had a little bit of time to review everything we're going over today, but I just wanted to thank you in advance for your time and any questions you have regarding this. And we look forward to working with you, your board, and HOA organizers in coming up with a solution for your association's waterproofing needs. Thank you so much and look forward to hearing from you soon.